My lords, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Transport Fever 2 as we continue the Deluxe DLC series based in the American Southwest. Today's episode kicks off just hovering above the city of Norfolk, and we can see with quite good timing one of our new aircraft just landing at Norfolk Airport. I have made a few changes to the landscape around the airport. As you can see to the right of the screen now, I have flattened off that hillside that was covered in trees that we had a few issues with on takeoff during the outro last time round. So that's been flattened off, as you can see, and some of the trees have been removed to make a sort of flight path for the aircraft as they are taking off. While I was doing that, I allowed the game to run in the background, obviously with the date paused, just to see how these aircraft would fare, and they are certainly managing to hold their own at the moment. They're not overly busy, but they are making enough in terms of transport revenue from the few passengers that they are attracting, so they are paying for themselves at the moment, so that's pleasing to see. And hopefully the natural progression will be to see extra passengers wanting to take these flights between Norfolk and Nashville as the game progresses. So today we're going to carry on with obviously the playthrough. We can see we're in April the 23rd, it's 1958, and money is doing very well indeed. Before we get started proper, what I will do is just show you the financial screen for this, and as you can see, this plane has just dropped off. We're now getting over half capacity, over 50% capacity, which is good, and we're just under 3 million over the last 12 months. If we look at the line overall and look at the finances, we can see we're comfortably paying for the maintenance and upkeep costs of these aircraft through the ticket sales that they are managing to generate. And as we saw in that aircraft there, 12 people out of a maximum capacity of 19 is a pretty good attraction rate. And as I said, hopefully we will see that expand and improve as time goes on. So today we're going to look into the final form of transportation in Transport Fever 2, and that is river-based or sea-water-based transportation. Now, if you cast your mind back to the end of the previous episode, I did float a few ideas, such as having a ferry service that'll run from Gainesville over to Peoria and then potentially up to Sioux Falls before heading back in reverse. So we'd go like that, like that, like that, and so on and so forth. Now, none of these cities here have been touched by us yet. There's no transport links to any of them, and none of them are receiving any goods at the moment. So in terms of passenger generation from these three, from the three cities themselves, we might not see a great deal. But once we've got these ships set up and underway, there's nothing stopping us connecting each city to a nearby larger city to try and attract some passengers in who would then potentially take the ferry to one of the other cities. Sioux Falls, for instance, we can quite comfortably and quite easily, I hope, connect into Norfolk. Peoria, we'd have to go a little bit further afield. We'd have to more than likely come down to Carrollton for a pickup point, because while we do have other cities nearby, none of them have been touched yet either. That's not to say the people in Athens, Murrieta and West Jordan wouldn't want to travel to Peoria to potentially take the ferry. But if we're looking for an existing large pool of residents, then of course we'll look no further than Carrollton. Gainesville, we could come into Memphis because we have done a little bit of work with Memphis. We have a passenger service that runs through Memphis, and we do have the internal bus transfer system as well. On top of that, we could also expand a little bit further to the north and have a line from Knoxville, and in fact what we could potentially do is a line that comes from Knoxville to Memphis, and then after we've gone to Memphis we'll come down here and branch off into Gainesville, and there's even the potential for then expanding onwards into Ontario as well, and then that could run in reverse, so that would cover quite a few options there, because we'd have the people in Ontario able to come into Gainesville, and of course those from Memphis and Knoxville as well. Of course, that's all to do after the fact. What we want to do first of all is get these ferries up and running. Now, one thing I did toy with, and I think I mentioned it in the last episode as well, was potentially having a man-made canal through this little peninsula here, which would save the travel time of our ferries having to sail around the peninsula when they're travelling between Sioux Falls and Peoria. And I think that's what we will go ahead and do, and we'll do that first of all before we do anything else. So the little industrial road there that connected to the forest industry right here has been deleted, and now we'll just use the flatten tool. We'll increase the size of it so we can cover a larger area, and we'll pick a nice deep point of this river. In fact, it'll be easier if we put the navigable water layer on the map as we do this, because then we can make sure we are taking a section of this river that is currently navigable, and as we can see, we can start a little bit close to the shoreline, and we should still make the canal navigable as we cut on through. So if we just go straight through like that, it's a bit ugly. We will have to tidy it up, of course, and maybe come through here as well. This should open this canal up. As we can see, it's the navigable water layer is starting to layer itself over the top. Now, what we can see is we have this ridge line of sorts through the canal. Now, we don't really want that. It's going to make it look a little bit silly. So I think what we'll do now is just flatten out to the same depth, or dig down, or dredge, I suppose you would be doing, to the same depth all the way through like this, and we can see that ridge line down the middle of this canal is being removed, and it just makes it look a little bit tidier. The other thing we want to consider doing as well is tidying up the shoreline of this canal, because as we can see, it's a little bit rough and ready at the moment. But just to get the ball rolling and to give the passenger ships a shortcut through, it's going to work. I'll probably end up tidying it off camera just so I can get it as neat and tidy as possible, and take as long as I need to achieve that without being mindful of how long the video is taking and how much time is being, shall we say, wasted in just beautifying the side of this little canal we've constructed for ourselves. So that will do for the time being. We know it's navigable, we checked that as we were constructing, so we're good to go. So the next thing we want are a few passenger harbours. Gainesville's quite a fortunate town because it's right on the river's edge, so we can get that connection almost straight away, and as we can see, it's right there. There's that connection. We don't have full coverage, so we will need a bus system in Gainesville so we can get coverage over here as well, or at least get the people from over here down to here. The city of Peoria is set a little bit further back, so again we will absolutely need a bus system for Peoria, and the bus system will have to run from the city itself out to this port that we're constructing for them. What we'll also need to do, of course, is connect this port into the road infrastructure. So we'll do the usual strategy where we have a nice flat connection just across the front of the harbour, like that. In fact, that's not nice at all. So what we'll do is the usual trick. We'll just take the brush size down a bit here and pick a bit of land. In fact, let's go a little bit higher than that and flatten off. Although it doesn't seem to be flattening at the moment, I'm not sure what's happening. Maybe I need to put the brush size up even higher. Now apparently it is, but it still looks like it's dropping down. I'm not sure what's happening there. Oh, there we go. Using the smoothing tools got it to work nicely. So if we get it flat and flush with the ground as best we can, then we know that this road here across the front is going to look a little bit tidier. And we'll just use a smaller road than that. We don't need an excessively large road. And while that isn't perfect, it's still certainly better than the initial offering. So we'll take that, maintain with the same height of course. Now we have the GM Fishbowl bus available. Anything else? Yes, the same bus in the Santa Clara variant. We have the Canadair CL-44 passenger aircraft, and that's your lot for this year. So those buses will be brought in to the network in this episode, because we are going to be setting up some bus lines, as we mentioned, in all of these cities, so it gives us a perfect opportunity to see them on the map, and while we're doing that we will upgrade our existing fleet in our other towns. So there's Peoria. Next, or finally, we have Sioux Falls. Now this is where things get a little bit complicated, and it's something I hadn't considered until just now. And the complication is of course this rail line that we have right here, which is, it doesn't necessarily block access to the port, but it does mean we're going to have a crossroads. Now this is a used line, as we can see. We do have a train that runs along here, so there will be interaction between the bus service and the train. However, in the time we've been sat here looking at this, no trains have come on through yet. The big problem is, do we have enough land space available to put down the port and provide it with road access? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by putting that port down. Let's see. If we pop the port just there, can we squeeze in that road along the front? No, we'll have to use a small street. This should fit in okay. Yes, it does. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's certainly not the worst, so we'll live with that. And then what we'll do is we'll curve to there, and this is the point where the level crossing will be, and then we'll connect into the rest of the road network for Sioux Falls, just like that. Nice and simple. So that's Sioux Falls Port, that's Peoria Port, and this hopefully will have named itself Gainesville Port. Yes, it has. So the 3 ports are set up. All we need now is a dry dock to purchase the ships, and of course to set the line up itself. So we'll put the shipyard, we'll pop it over by Gainesville, and we can tell ourselves that Gainesville is a shipbuilding town. So let's pop the shipyard just there, obviously with the slipway into the river, otherwise they're not going to do very well for themselves. And now we can set up the shipping line. So we'll be coming from Gainesville Port, of course. We'll maintain that colour, that's fine. Pretty long voyage down into Peoria, and then from Peoria, we've got that little ridge line there again, but it shouldn't be a problem. We're coming to Sioux Falls, and then we're returning to Peoria, and then of course back to the start over in Gainesville. So this will be S for shipping, maybe F for ferry, because if we do any cargo shipping that will be S. So F is for ferry, so we know it is handling passengers, and this will be the Gainesville Sioux Falls ferry, and there we go. So our first look at ships that we have, let's see, we want passenger, we'd also like a large one. So what do we have? We have the Klondike, that is a large, we have the Schaffhausen, that is a small, the Zurich, which is a small, and the Meridian Ferry, which is also a small. In terms of speed, the Meridian Ferry is the fastest at 22 miles per hour, and in terms of carry capacity, the Zurich is number 1 with 150. However, this is still a decent amount here with 121, and it's also cheaper to run per year. So I think we'll go for the Meridian Ferry, and I think we'll have 3 of those, and that's going to come in at under $5 million. So we will purchase those. We'll colour the line, I think it was that colour, or colour the ships I should say. Assign them to that line, and then they will start their journey. So what we need to do now then are the bus services in all 3 of these cities. So that should be relatively straightforward. So we're going to go for a bus stop outside the port, of course, and that's going to be the same in all of the towns. And then we'll just do the usual loop system that goes around the city, encompassing as much as we can, just like that. We'll put a road depot over here, and I think we'll just squeeze it in just there, right behind the shipyard, because why the heck not? So now we can set up this new bus line, and as I said, it's nothing too extravagant or fancy, just a nice counterclockwise loop around the city of Gainesville. So this will be B for bus, and then it will be Gainesville bus 01. Why not? Okay, so now we can look at that GM fishbowl that we had unlocked about 5 minutes ago. So obviously there is no difference between the vanilla one and the Santa Clara one in terms of their performance and their statistics. The difference is, of course, this one has a slightly amended livery. However, we will go for the vanilla one in this instance, and we'll pick up 5 of those to run the Gainesville line. So buy those. We'll increase the maintenance because we can afford the cost of that. Colour them and assign them on their journey. Then we want to hop over, of course, to our next city, which is Peoria. And this is where the bus line will be ever so slightly different because it does have to run out of town. Now here we have 2 options available to us. We can either just have the bus loop come round and then all the way down here, or we can have a bus loop that stays within Peoria, and then we can have a link out to the ferry between Peoria and the terminal and back. And I think I'm leaning towards that option. What I'm doing just here is just finishing off some of these roads that we have in the city, just to enable us to get a nice loop around everything, sort of like round here, down this way, around and around. And I think what we'll also do, I'll just make a gap there, and where we've got this gap now, we'll go to the buildings menu, and we'll get ourselves a passenger station and fit it in the gap. Give the street access out of the opposite side, and this can be where the passengers can change between the inner city bus to the loop that will go and cover the port. So, all set up, ready to go. The next thing we need are bus stops in Peoria itself, so we'll put a bus stop there. We'll put one there, one down there, one there, one there, and then of course this one right here as well. What we'll also need is a bus stop at the port for the second bus service, and now we can set up the line. Aha, not just yet. The last thing we want is a road depot, and we'll keep this out of town, and we'll just pop it on that corner there. So, new line then. So we're coming around here, as discussed, all the way around, including the Peoria Annex, and then back through. Very simple. So this one will be Peoria Bus Service 01. Very straightforward. This time we'll go for the Santa Clara, just to mix it up a little bit, and again we'll go for 5. Get that maintenance up to very high. We'll not colour these because these do have a custom livery, so we want to see that livery in all its glory, and then assign them on their way. Next, of course, we want to do a line from Peoria Annex to the port. So that's going to be a simple point to point, like so. And they are looping around, and they are going on the opposite platform. Brilliant. So that's all we need from that one. And this one can be the Peoria ferry link. There we go. So it's just a link between the city, or the interchange, and the port. So this one we won't need as many buses, and we'll go back to the standard fishbowl for this, and we'll only have 2. Once again with the maintenance. And because these are vanilla, we will colour them as well. So it's that burgundy sort of colour there, I believe. and assign them to the ferry link line. And then that's Peoria taken care of. So last of all, we have Sioux Falls. And again, because we're going to have to go from the city of Sioux Falls out to the port, and we won't be able to include it in a natural loop, I think we'll go for a similar setup in Sioux Falls. Now what I'm tempted to do is to put our link here. So I'm going to demolish all these roads, and that's going to disturb the residents somewhat. And then we'll go over here, get the bus tram station, pop it just there, roughly central, like that. Give it the second access point, and then connect it in. So, whoops, that's not quite right. Connect you in there. I'd rather keep you straight and remove a building, so we will do that. And connect you in there. And then we can throw down the bus stops for the rest of the town. So, what shall we do? Let's start down here. Come down here. We'll put a link between here and maybe not at that angle, like that. Back to building, come up here. That'll encourage them to come down this way. Go in here. Now that should cover all of that up there for now. We might need to change it later if Sioux Falls expands up that way, but for now it's fine. Right, now let's have one there. And then let's put a street connection across there. Come down this way. And yeah, between there and there, that's fine. So, new line. Oh, no. Always forget to do this. We want the road depot. And we'll keep it out of town and just pop it there. So now we can do the line. So, new line. Nice purple colour, this one. Around all of this, like so. Wonderful. So, this usual naming convention will apply. Sioux Falls, bus loop, or bus service, doesn't really matter. 01. Let's get those buses running now, and then we'll come back and do the second bus service. So, Santa Clara again, go for 5, and again, get that maintenance cracked up since we can afford to do that. And out they come. So now we want a bus stop at the port there. And what we want then these to do is, yeah, they can go up and down that street. But I want to put a couple of waypoints around here, just so we can steer them correctly if we need to, if they don't go for a nice tidy loop themselves. So Spruce Street, and that's actually picked, is that the same colour? No, it's not. And let's have it come this way, then there, and then out this way, like that. So that's now linking the passenger exchange to our ferry terminal. So let's name this one Sioux Falls Ferry Link. And again, we'll switch back to the vanilla fish bowls for this service, and we'll have 2. As always now, maintenance cracked very high. And what colour were you? I can't see the colour on here. I don't suppose it matters, we'll go for that one. And you're on the ferry link. Okay, there we go. That's now all 3 cities with a link to their ports. We can resume the game. I forgot I'd paused it. As we can see, the ferries have clustered up somewhat. Are they all heading to Peoria? Yes, they are. Well, why don't we send you back? Yeah, you can go over to Sioux Falls, and let's have you go back to Gainesville. Whoops. Gainesville, there we go. And that way they will separate out nicely. So this is pleasing to see. We already have one person ready to take the ferry in Gainesville. We might not have any pickup in Sioux Falls and Peoria yet, just because they've got to factor in, it takes them a little bit of time to factor in the links that we've just set up in terms of these buses. Hopefully though we will start seeing residents take the buses and then take the link to each port. I assume it's the same in Sioux Falls. Yes, it is. So with time, they should then start making their way to the port once they realise it's an option for them and their routes have been recalculated, and we should start seeing people wanting to board at Peoria and Sioux Falls, and of course, hopefully as well, anybody boarding in Gainesville will be wanting to disembark at either Peoria or Sioux Falls. In fact, we can check that if we can spot the passenger over here. There they are. So this young lady is Sabrina Gonzalez, and where are you heading to? You're going to a commercial building via the Gainesville Sioux Falls ferry, of course. What commercial building are you going to? You're coming to this one in Sioux Falls. Now, do you have coverage automatically from Sioux Falls to that building? Let's have a look at which one was it. Just make sure we get the right one. It's that one there, Consumers World. A couple extra vehicles being unlocked. Yes, so you're not going to be using the bus, you can walk there. So there's no evidence yet that the calculations have taken into account the links and then the exchange. So we'll have to sit on that and see how that goes. Hopefully they will start to calculate that, and their decision making in terms of their travel arrangements will be changed to reflect the new services on offer. While we're doing that, or while that's hopefully taking place in the background, what we want to do now is upgrade our remaining bus fleet. So let's filter by road vehicles only. Now thankfully, as we know, because we've got these not sure what these identifies, these tags on each of our lines, we group them together nicely, so selecting the ones we're interested in is going to be relatively straightforward, as we can see like this. So we know that Peoria, Sioux Falls and Gainesville have already got the GM fishbowls. So let's have a look at these ones. So at the minute they are running the Scenic Cruiser. Oh well, look at that. The Scenic Cruiser is the superior vehicle in terms of speed, power and capacity. Although one thing going for the GM fishbowl is the loading speed is slightly faster, and well, the emissions are a lot higher. So I think we'll maintain the service of the GMC PD4501 semi-cruisers for the time being, since in all respects that really matter, they are superior. So we don't need to do anything about those. We did also unlock a couple of aircraft as well, so it's probably not a bad idea checking out those and seeing if we can swap out our current air vehicles for something a little more modern. So let's go here, manage vehicles. At the moment we are running the Lockheed Super Constellation L1049. If we did a bulk swap, make sure we filter just passengers. So this is what we're running beg your pardon, at the moment. So the new one that we have that can handle passengers is the de Havilland Comet 4B. As we can see, it is faster, it's got more thrust, and it has ever so slightly higher capacity. The emissions are higher. I assume that's to reflect the fact this is jet engine rather than propeller driven. But I would like the extra speed. Of course, these are more to maintain per year at 1.4 million, but it's not like that is a problem for us. So we will replace the Lockheed Super Constellations with the de Havilland Comets for a princely sum of 9.5 million. And there we go. So let's go and take a look at one of these, shall we? Of course, as they do in real life, they have upgraded themselves mid-flight, because we know that's a common thing. But regardless, I must say it's a very sleek looking aircraft. I do like the de Havilland Comet aircraft. I like the streamlined inline jet intakes and obviously the jet engine at the back. Also, I like the way the inner engine is angled, so that would affect the thrusts. In fact, no, it wouldn't too much, because of course if they're built exact opposites, then the extra lateral thrust due to the angle of the jet exhaust will cancel out. Obviously you're getting primarily reverse backwards thrust, because it's only angled slightly. But of course, well, that would be enough if that one was straight, for instance. If these two were straight and only this one was kinked, then that would push us and we'd start to veer off to the port side or the left hand side slightly. But that's not a problem because it's mirrored. And I'm sure there was a reason the designers went for that route. I'm not sure what it is, I never looked into it, and in fact I never even realised that the interior engines were somewhat offset, but there we go, every day's a school day. Or maybe it's just the model in-game, who knows. Anyway, Peoria, we have 4 people. Ooh, look at you guys. And where are you going? Because it would be nice to see if they're going to take advantage of the bus link. Now, again, I'm going to say that that has a connection or a link. Oh, no, it doesn't. So this lady here will have to get the bus link into there. And yeah, then you'll have to get the local service out to there. So you're going to have to go past your destination and double back on yourself, but clearly you're happy to take that journey on, so that's pleasing to see. What about the guys over here, the guys and gals over here? We've got 5 at Peoria, so clearly the links are working as intended, which is always good to see. You're now sailing back and you've picked up 4 people, so in the time that we were investigating the buses and the aircraft, 3 others have wanted to jump on board, and we've got 4 more already waiting for when the ferries get back. Now, I am thinking about having more ferries because it's going to be a while before one comes back to Gainesville. However, we don't really have the passenger numbers to warrant that at the moment. As we know, these carry over, I think, what was it, 122 passengers a piece, something like that. And while we're only in single digits, there's no need to swamp the line with ferries. It does mean that people will be waiting longer than perhaps they might want to in real life, but it is what it is. I'm not sure if wait time is a factor. It might be a factor, of course, the frequency when they have competing modes of transport to factor in, but when it's just this is the only option they have, I think they just grin and bear it, so to speak, and they don't complain. So we've been going for about half an hour, ladies and gentlemen, so I think this is where we'll draw a close to proceedings today. And, well, we have a ferry just coming alongside in Peoria, so I guess next you're going to go to Sioux Falls. So what we'll do is we'll let this ferry push off, and yep, here we are, we're going to Sioux Falls. We'll take a little boat ride over to Sioux Falls, so this might be a slightly extended cab ride because of course the ferries are quite slow in comparison to our trains, even our road vehicles and our aircraft, so it's going to take us a little bit longer to traverse the distance just because of the slow speed of the ferry. But yeah, we get a nice scenic river journey through our man-made canal, which, as I said, I will tidy up off camera at some point, over to the city of Sioux Falls. So I hope you've enjoyed the episode and you continue to enjoy the series as a whole. I've already started formulating plans for the next series once this one is wrapped up. I'll not say too much about it yet because I'm not 100% convinced about the idea right now. What I'm going to do is the idea that I have. I'm going to do a couple of tests, if you will, a couple of dummy runs to see if it's viable and, more importantly, is it enjoyable. So obviously all that will be revealed in good time. For now, as always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. Your generosity is deeply appreciated. Thank you very much. And as always, all that remains for me to say right now is take very good care of yourselves. It's ta-ta for now.